Warning: Josh is not an expert in any of the crap he talks about. He simply uses his head and does a lot of research so you, the audience, don't have to. Keep in mind, he doesn't know everything, so take the he says with a grain of salt.
What's going on, everyone, and welcome back to the podcast that'll change the world. I'm your host, Mr. Quarantino, and if you're new here, be sure to hit that subscription button. The goal is 100 subs, and when I hit that, I'll do the Ghost Pepper Challenge. So again, make sure to subscribe and click that notification bell so you can get updates on future videos. Anyways, let's get started. So in this episode, I'm going to take a step back from talking about all the BS going on and dive into the world of video games. More in particular, Resident Evil 8, The Village. I have on Zoom with me a very special guest, my best friend, Joe. Joe, if you want to introduce yourself, hello.
Hey guys, how are you guys doing today? I'm glad to be here, dude. I'm super excited to talk about this game with you, mainly because we pretty much played it hand in hand, and we've played a lot of the Resident Evil series for the most part, so we kind of understand how the game has evolved and where the game has come from and where it's kind of going, and we could talk about the goods, the bads, and the kind of uglies when it comes to this new entry in the title.
Exactly. I thought this game was pretty badass too. And yeah, I figured on this, we give our review on it. We could also go ahead and discuss like strategies we use during the game, provide tips on it, talk about the overall storyline, like kind of what you were saying and how it ties in with the rest of the series. And then for you, the audience, of course, this contains plenty of spoilers. So if you haven't played it, you've officially been warned. But otherwise, I hope you enjoy it. And then also go ahead and get into it. Let's go and start with your opinion on it, Joe. What was your overall impression of Resident Evil 8 when you first started seeing it coming out in trailers and everything versus actually playing it now?
So when it came to, I watched one trailer. I only watched the one trailer
Me too.
that got released a little bit before it came out. And that's because you told me to watch it because you told me Chris was the bad guy. So I was like, okay, I gotta watch it. But it's good in a sense that it takes a lot of like great things that Resident Evil has done and been known for, and kind of like puts them all into the pot together in this game. But it also does like a lot of bad things that Resident Evil is like kind of known for, and kind of also throws it into the pot too. Which, I mean, if you're a Resident Evil fan, you'll love the game. But if you, again, I guess a lot of people that I've seen review the game and talk about the game also have the same feeling. If you like actual horror, I guess Resident Evil 7 was a little bit better in that aspect.
Yeah, because it was a bit more of a controlled environment, not as much like big perks with all the infinite weapons and stuff like that.
Yeah, exactly. It's like I said, it has a lot of the good things, a lot of the bad things. I mean, the story, I would say, is definitely still there. It's definitely a solid story so far. I like where they've been going with it. They've been telling the tale of something, I guess, someone different of the average Joe. I would consider Ethan more of the average Joe, but if I'm not mistaken, I read somewhere that like this since 7, like it's the Winters trilogy, Ethan Winters trilogy. It's not like they even stated like it's Ethan Winters who's supposed to be like the main person in the whole thing. So after the ending of 8, I mean, it's hard to think that he's not gonna come back. I mean, again, we're already talking about spoilers here. He's gone, so it's just like what do you do now? You know what I mean?
Yeah, I wonder how they could actually bring him back because they found out at the end of 8 that Ethan had actually died from the head stomp by Jack Baker at the beginning of Resident Evil 7. So this entire time he's just been molded, and that's why he's been able to take so much damage, so many, as like the lore that I've been reading up on, he's able to just take so many fatal injuries. He can't have the same superhuman regenerative capability as everybody else. And so I feel like, what were you gonna say?
No, go ahead. Go ahead.
I feel like there could be a possibility with the fact that Rose being an adult now and her really tapping into her powers, there may be a bit some kind of tie-in with that.
Yeah, no, I definitely think that Rose is going to play a big part in it, mainly because I feel like it's quite possible. I don't know exactly when. No, okay, so Rose was definitely conceived before Mia got kidnapped, right?
Yes. Yeah. It
Okay,
was, if I remember
okay,
correctly, the reason for Mia being kidnapped was because of the birth of Rose.
okay, awesome. Now, quite possibly when Ethan died, um, Rose was already keeping Ethan alive. You know what I mean? Because I
In
mean, if
like an
she,
existential
because
sense?
yeah, I mean, I don't know, like, because if Mia was already getting kidnapped for the for Rose being conceived,
Right.
that means Rose already has all that power. So that doesn't wouldn't like, I mean, wouldn't I just feel like Rose was like keeping Ethan alive when Ethan died at that moment. But that's
Oh, at the
also just
very
my
end of
thought.
Resident Evil 8, when he was like just
Yeah,
like barely on the last ropes, do you think Rose was just keeping him alive right there?
yeah, you know what I mean. Like I don't
Yeah.
think like I don't like I think like she was like quite possibly like already like keeping him alive and stuff like that. You know what I mean? Like he
Yeah.
was already feeding off of her power.
Yeah, because you if remember looking at with the Heisenberg, he was wanting to use Rose as a weapon against Miranda, and so that means already she has some pretty superior powers just inherent alone with it. And I feel too with because I know the Mutamycite or the Megamycite, whichever it's called.
Yeah, mega Messiah. Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, yeah, Megamycite. That
Magicite.
was
It's Magicite.
Magicite. Okay. I know because it was like just on the verge of dying after Ethan finally kills um Miranda, and then Rose still keeping him on his last limb. Like I was expecting him to see like more fall apart and everything as he's like trying to go back, but that he was still remaining intact and up until the explosion. So I feel like she
Yeah.
could have helped him like just hold on that much longer.
Yeah, exactly. Because apparently she still has all this power even after the thing is destroyed too.
Hmm.
So I mean, again, it's quite possible that if she knew how to use her powers at the time, of course, for being a baby, um, she could have kept him alive.
Exactly, because you saw like at the end of 8 with her, she was saying she told that guy who called her Evelyn, it's like I could show you all kinds of things that even Chris doesn't know about, and they got all super concerned and worried. But then
Yeah,
obviously
exactly.
afterwards, he like paid her a compliment saying that she's a lot like Ethan. She's like, yeah, I know.
Yeah, exactly. Um, so yeah, I mean, so the story, like I said, the story was good in a sense to where things are moving forward, but not in the way I really expected them moving forward.
Right. I was surprised with the whole introduction with the lichens and the vampires because like we thought they were like zombies at first after you kill the Angie doll and Benevitio. We thought they were like
Yeah,
zombies, but they're actually vampires.
yeah, they definitely gave off like a crazier zombie vibe in the trailers
Hmm.
at first, but as far as lichens, I could see it also because there's uh plenty of you know movies and pictures and videos that
Hmm.
depict lichens at times to look more human than wolf, I guess you could say.
Yeah, and I think they were able to pull it off really well with the whole of them being a BOW because the fact Mother Miranda had the ability to manipulate her genes so she could do mimicry and mimic others. And then she's been alive for over a century. So all the experimentations that she's been doing, I'm sure she was able to just pull it off to where she could like convert the megamycite into the lichens, the vampires, and all that stuff.
Well, at the very end, I believe there's 4 books that contain a lot of lore
Hmm.
in the Four Lords, if I'm not mistaken, and it kind of
Yeah.
like talks about how the lichens and vampires were both kind of like failed experiments for the most part.
Yeah, I know. I actually know exactly what you're talking about. Yeah, it was talking about all four of the lords, the main bosses you fought. It talked with like Lady Dimitrescu. She had she had good Kadeo affinity, which the Kadeo was that like weird stuff, like in the Angie doll that was in its head, that was all like weird, had the tentacles and
Yeah.
everything. That's what called
Hmm.
a Cadeo that Miranda developed, and all four of them were initial candidates actually for to be come Miranda's daughter, but they all obviously failed as well. But you had Dimitrescu; she had the uncontrollable growth thing, and because of that, in order to sustain it, she has to consume blood and flesh as well, which is how they kind of pulled off with the vampire aspect with her. And then Moreau, that hunchback dude that turns into a fish, he had very poor affinity because of his like obviously a lot of his I'm trying to find the word for it, deformities, genetic deformities, and he just wasn't a good candidate. The House of Beneventio and with the Angie doll, they were good candidates except for her mental instability. So because of that, Miranda excluded her as a candidate. And then Heisenberg, he actually had a very high affinity for the Cadeo, so he could have been a very potential candidate, especially because she explained in one of those books how through the Cadeo uh, experimentations, he was able to have the electromagnetic be able to emit electromagnetic impulses, which gives him the ability to control and magnetize stuff and make it float around and stuff like that. But
Hmm.
yeah, I thought that was really cool to give the like more of the background on the four of them.
Yeah, I thought it was very interesting too because it's just like you just wonder how did that happen, and like I said, it's more that they just unraveled towards the end that they didn't need to do, but they did it anyways, and it's
Mm-hmm.
kind of like the hidden touches. Especially, I suggest everybody reads everything in the game when you see it at least one time, because it's old. That's how kind of Resident Evil talks about their lore. For the most
Yeah,
part, it's kind of like in the things you read as you walk around through whatever it is you're
yeah,
going
the
through.
notes, the letters, and
Um,
stuff.
yeah, so I mean, the game, oh, I wouldn't say it was better than I expected. It was about what I expected, to be honest, when it came to a Resident Evil game. But again, there's definitely a lot more room for improvement because some of the bad things that they did them really bad, and it's just like, why? Like, let's talk about the enemies, for instance. There's probably like only 8 to 10 enemies in the entire game. You're looking at
Yeah,
lichens, and this is not including bosses. I believe that you're looking at the lichens. You're looking at the
the
flying
vampires.
goblin things. No, not
Uh,
you won't even count the vampires. I count all the vampires as literally bosses. So I mean, those
just
are
the
I
regular
wouldn't even count them.
vampires that just come out of
Yeah,
the ground.
I would consider those zombies because they're coming out of the ground.
Okay, so then there'll
Like
be the
like in the
lycans.
cells, like the one at the bottom of the castle and the cells and
Yeah,
stuff
I
like
think
that.
they're
Like when
called
you're going
like
through the dungeon.
yeah, I think they're called maracas or something like that because they're like
Yeah,
they're
but
mutated women. That's what I did. That what I read on with the lore.
I see, I see. I must have skipped a book or something because I didn't really read about them. But so you have them, which I would classify as like the
Yeah,
zombie in the game. So like in the zombie, you have the flying bat, and you have the like different variations of that really big kind of like zombie with that you have to shoot in specific areas.
yeah, that tank dude.
Um,
I think it's called like a Sada or something like that. His name starts with an S or something.
yeah, so that's already five. And I would just classify all of the different variations in the same boat as the one because I mean you just have to shoot a spot on them on all
Yeah,
of them. So
they'd
it's
be
not
just
really
like
a big deal.
subcategories.
Exactly. And
Hmm.
then in all honesty, you have the big guys that are wielding axes.
Hmm.
There's about three of them in the game, and then you have the big dogs, the big werewolves that are on all four legs. That's about seven. That is seven enemies in the
Yeah,
entire game, not like excluding bosses, and that's just too little, especially considering that one of the enemies you see mainly. throughout the entire game as you go back to the village, like a new one always like kind of pops up or something like that. It's always a werewolf variation or something like that
Right.
that pops up as you go back to the village. And then the lichen den, it's just all lichens and stuff like that. And
Where
the
are the
two
horses
enemies
that
that
they
are
rode
like,
on?
yeah, exactly. Like
Yeah.
they rode in on horses and stuff like that. Like there's just so much mixed like missed opportunity when it came to like enemy types. Well, I mean, I guess it is like 'cause I can't get too crazy with it, but I mean they were like
Yeah.
super like frugal when it came to like the enemies because like two of the sections in the entire game you don't see any enemies except for the boss and all you're doing is fighting the boss. Like two whole enemies are like two whole sections in the entire game is just fighting is just basically dedicated to the boss arena. Like two whole sections.
Yeah.
And it absolutely blows my mind why they decided to do that because realistically you could get through like if you played the game, if you realistically get through the game in like 2 hours, and that's being generous if you have like all your ammo and stuff infinite or something like that. It's just
Yeah.
it was just
I was able to do in
go ahead.
about 2.5 hours.
Yeah, it's just
I would say too. So I definitely know what you mean in regards to that because obviously, like with the House of Beneventio, there was no enemies. You just couldn't use your weapons. I did kind of like that because it gave like the Outlast. I think it's called Outlast, the Outlast vibes, where you're in that hospital, all you could do is run and hide, and it was scary as shit too with the baby. I remember both of us
yeah,
when we
no,
were
no,
going
don't get
through
me
that.
wrong.
That scared
It
us.
was definitely scary. I was definitely
Yeah,
scared because I didn't know you could hide in the cabinets. So
and that thing was freaky too.
when you go all the way down and you get to the very end where you pick up the thing and then the baby starts coming after you and basically it's either you go hide in the cabinet until the baby leaves or you run past the baby. The first time I did it I tried to run past the baby, it killed me instantly. Second time you're like we were in a chat and you're like just go into the cabinet and I was like, okay, I didn't know you go into the cabinet. But you never kill the baby, so I mean that
Yeah,
thing's just fucking that's just there. It's just like it just disappears, which is also weird because I thought you would have taken that out. I thought that would have been a boss fight or something like that. That's not the boss fight. I thought that thing was the boss. Like I honestly thought when I first saw that thing, I thought that thing was the boss, but it ended up being the actual girl who was like blindfolded, who was like holding
yeah,
the doll, and I was just like, yeah, that just doesn't make like again, it was a missed like opportunity. Like they tried to make that section like I would say the scary section of
hmm,
the game, and I think it fell a little flat towards the end because I guess there was no actual boss fight. Like you didn't get your weapons
yeah.
back or anything like that, and she didn't turn into anything crazy. Like it was just you stabbing a doll in the eye, and that was it. After you found the doll.
Yeah, I felt like they could have done more there. I do kind of wish they had the weapons. I did find out because in the notes to or the so the four books that we were talking about before, that's at the very end when you're playing as Chris. When it talked about the House of Beneventio, she had the ability to uh infect people like hallucinogens through that garden area that you first walked through that was all misty. Those flowers and everything, they emit spores that will causes Ethan to hallucinate. And so that's kind of what the baby was. It was like a hallucination, but it was real enough that she could kill him with it and
Yeah.
everything. But yeah,
Okay.
I felt like they could have done more because literally when I've played it now, like I've played, I think I played through the game like 6 or 7 times now. But now when I play, I literally just go upstairs into the bedroom, stab. I go upstairs instead of going the long way following the blood. I just do a quick 180 right through the other door, stab, and then she goes to the same spot every time at the front. For the third time, you just go stab, and then it's over.
Mhm. Mhm.
And then
Mhm.
you had the
Yeah.
whole Moreau. There wasn't any enemies there. You just had to keep on running through the area with the water.
Yeah. Yeah. That was. I guess there's the puzzle of like I don't know like that like I said those two full areas are dedicated just to chasing a boss for the most part
Yeah,
and then the Moreau boss fight isn't even that like entertaining either because
that one was
you
pissing me
shoot him
off.
like five. Yeah, you shoot him a couple of times and then he runs and he goes on top and he shoots like a bunch of like acid rain
Yeah,
and rinse and repeat and then he does like and then he barricades the arena sometimes. But if you literally are in a good enough spot, you could stop him from barricading it, or it pushes you onto the proper side that you want to be on to go collect the rest of the stuff. Like
Yeah.
it was just easy like that. Like both of those bosses were just super easy, and I don't know, it was weird. And then let's be honest, the Dimitrescu's castle was also basically a giant like boss arena for the most part.
Yeah.
It was the three girls that chased you around. Her three daughters, they just chased you around and you killed them. And when you killed them, it was actually really easy. It took like maybe like 5 or 6 shotgun shots before they died, and like
Yeah.
that was it.
If
Like,
you do it on Village of Shadows, they're definitely a lot more difficult, but I have the MCX Infinite maxed out, so I would unload all 80 rounds and they'd be dead.
yeah, I mean, even then, you're not playing Village of Shadows right away. You're probably playing casual, and by
Yeah.
the time you're done with the game, but if you want to play it again, you'll have probably something unlocked infinite, which is great because you finish enough challenges throughout the game, and if you're smart enough and you pick the right weapon, you can definitely get one infinite weapon on your second playthrough, which makes everything so much easier. Okay, as far as New Game Plus comes, I think they did it very well in this game
I
because
agree.
most New Game Pluses, it's like you beat it on difficulty, then you get everything, but you can only replay the game on that difficulty. New Game Plus. Resident Evil 8 allows you to play the New Game Plus on any difficulty that you want, and I really love that because they offer the infinite ammo,
Hmm.
and even with infinite ammo on Village of Shadows, I mean, obviously you were having difficult on some areas,
Yeah.
because some weapons are just stronger than others, and you didn't realize like the enemies were going to be super strong and stuff like that. So you needed different infinite weapons than the ones you chose because you were telling me that the shotgun was taking like a whole clip or something on the Lycan.
Yeah, it's like the infinite shotgun, especially in the Village of Shadows. I first made the first shotgun that you get infinite, and it did good on the lower difficulties. But when I tried to do on Village of Shadows, I just kept on dying. And then overall, making the shotguns, starting out making the shotguns in at least one of them infinite is good because you have the ability to keep crowd control. But otherwise, I found a lot more benefit doing the Magnum infinite more so, and then obviously getting into the assault rifle infinite and everything. So I felt like those were really good strong points with it.
Yeah, definitely. Like I said, I think that's a great feature, and most games kind of drop the ball when it comes to New Game Plus, and they did it really
Mhm.
good.
I felt like they
Let's
made that
see.
mistake too with Resident Evil 7, because Resident Evil 7 you couldn't as you were saying too, you couldn't on Resident Evil 7 you couldn't transfer the infinite things over different
Oh yeah,
difficulties. So the hardest difficulty
yeah,
on 7 was way more difficult for me versus doing it on this one.
yeah, and it's understandable if you want that kind of experience.
Mhm.
Some people do like that kind of experience. Me personally, I'm more of a casual person. I want to do the story first before I do that kind of experience.
Same.
And just because you have infinite ammo doesn't lessen the experience at all because I mean, yeah, you have infinite ammo, but I mean, the gun, like you said, the shotgun did absolutely nothing. So if
Hmm.
you're running through the hardest difficulty with just an infinite shotgun, well, I mean, you're still going to have a hard time. It's still going to be way harder
Yeah.
than if, you had a different weapon infinite. You know
Uh,
what I mean?
yeah,
Or
and pretty
multiple
much
weapons infinite.
everything on Village of Shadows can be a potential one-hit kill with you. The Lycan regular one-hit kill brings you near death. Even the Three Sisters one strike can bring you near death. And even the Magnum, even just halfway leveled up, like the Magnum that you unlock after you beat the game, even that one barely did anything. So I was relying a lot on that MCX when it was maxed out.
I see. Okay. Speaking of one hit kills, the best way to avoid that in this game, 100%, would be blocking. Let's talk about this blocking mechanic that they added in Resident Evil
I
7
like
that
it.
they
I
just
like it.
turned up to 11 on Resident Evil 8. Okay. Anyways, Blocking is a new mechanic in Resident Evil that allows you to put your hands up with,
Mhm.
any weapon or anything in your hand, and negate some damage. Now, with the recipes that got introduced into Resident Evil 8, there are two recipes that allow you to negate more damage as you're blocking. One is, a higher end recipe, and another one is a lower end recipe. So the lower end one does slightly increase, and then the higher one greatly increases. So
Right.
now, if that's out of the way, when you get these recipes, you absolutely turn into a tank. A tank, okay? You
Even
can
on Village of Shadows.
like you literally put your hands up and you can tank shots. Like it's absolutely ridiculous. Like you don't get into like things that would normally stun you don't put you into a stun animation. Like it
Mhm.
absolutely turns you into a tank. And uh, I think it is good, but I also think it slightly breaks the game, because now you have enemies that I don't think should have been in the game that are in the game. Um, Movements. They can be in the game. I just don't think they should have moved the way that they did in the game. Lichens and the little bat thingies. The bat
How they
thingies
shot
instantly
sideways.
pull. They instantly shoot to the right and instantly shoot to the left. And playing a video game that allows you to, that allows them to do that as soon as you're pressing the fire button because the game knows you're pressing the fire button is not fun at all. That is a
Yeah.
horrible mechanic to have in the game, having an enemy shoot like that to the side, to the left, or to the right, because the gun handling and the gun play in the game doesn't allow you to properly handle these enemies um, when they all come at you at the same time in the spot that they are.
Yeah.
Same with the lichens. Lichens literally insta switch to the left and insta switch to the right, and it's just so weird that they're moving so fast and you cannot move at that speed. Like
Mhm.
what Resident Evil 4 did great, which is kind of like what this one dropped the ball on, is um, they kind of took Resident Evil's 4 movement mechanics and kind of like inventory system, and they kind of like threw it over to 8, but they just made the enemies faster.
Yeah.
Again, there's hardly any enemy types, and the Lycans are the most enemies that you face. And the fact that when you're in the den and all of them are going like this and 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 you can't shoot them
And you're wasting ammo.
properly, and you're wasting ammo because of it, and it's just it turns into something that's just a little ridiculous, and there's just absolutely no way that the enemy should have that kind of movement for the type of system that the game offers to us. I just thought that was absolutely ridiculous.
Yeah, and plus too with that, the only way there, so the two ways that the guard can be broken, which ties in with that, is first way, obviously, if you get like hit with a heavy attack from like that Sada dude with the light on his chest, if he does hit you, it'll do like a stun feature, and if you get attacked just after that, it will actually hurt you. Because that's what kept
I
on
see.
happening to me on the Village of Shadows difficulty when I was in
Oh,
the factory. And then
so see, I've never gotten to a point to where an enemy has like broken the block, but I guess it's possible.
yeah, and then the other way, because there were certain points when I was doing the hardest difficulty that I just kind of ran into a bad situation, got like swarmed, because the whole locations and what enemies appear are completely different on the hardest difficulty. And if like with that whole like dropping and dashing left or right, if there's multiple of them and they're all doing that, one of them can very easily get behind you, and you can't guard a strike from behind. That's what I've learned, like on mercenaries, especially when I'm trying to like just guard to get past the guy real quick. I'll get hit from behind, and it'll tend to do a lot of damage.
Okay. Good to know. Um, yeah. Again, that's just another silly thing that can happen because the enemies are dashing really fast. It's just
Yeah,
weird.
I like what they reintroduced the whole hidden treasures, because what I really liked about 5 was the fact that you could find all the gems and everything, different locations, shoot them down, find them in boxes, and that they even had combinable ones that tied back to previous locations in Resident Evil 8. I thought that was pretty
I
cool. That was a good thing that I thought was refreshing.
I definitely enjoyed that also. I think they could have done a little bit more of it though, because I
Hmm.
feel like there was a lot of like dead area that treasures could have been that there just wasn't.
Hmm.
I think there's five combinable pieces in the five combinable treasure pieces in the whole
Yeah.
game. Easy to miss one of them. One of them's a dumb ring and an eyeball. So yeah, now you guys know a dumb
Yeah.
ring and an eyeball. Look for it.
Yeah, it's a maroon eye that's, or no, not maroon eye. It's like a blue, like I think it started like Amur or something like that. It's a
Mhm.
blue eye that's located in the dungeons of the Lady Dimitrescu castle, where the iron insignia key is required. I had to figure that out like the late end of the second playthrough.
Yes, sir. I figured that out too
Yeah.
around the same time because he told me. Let's see. Upgrading weapons came back. Well, I mean, it's kind of always kind of been a thing to upgrade your weapons in
Yeah.
Resident Evil for the most part
Yeah,
since
except for
4.
6, that one I didn't like with it.
Yeah, it was like they made it so you could find some pieces out in the wild for your upgrades, and then you could
Mhm.
purchase most of them from the dupe. Very good. Um,
Mhm.
very simple. Gave you a sense of a power creep, so it made it feel like you're getting a little bit more power in your weapon.
Yeah.
I mean, it was just it was a good thing to have, good feature to have always when it comes to like a game like this because again, like I said, it's a sense of progression when you're
Yeah.
selecting parts.
Yeah, and
Same with the recipes. Oh no, go ahead.
oh no, I was actually gonna say that. Yeah, the same thing with the recipes. I thought that was a really cool intro with it.
Yeah, definitely. Like the health increase you can't see, the speed increase you could barely feel,
Mhm.
but as far as like the blocking defense, like that's definitely noticeable when you get the when you get both of them. Like you definitely
Yeah.
notice like you're definitely a lot stronger. So I guess that's the one thing I would suggest is just getting the blocking ones to start because again, if you're blocking all the damage, you don't need the increased health and you don't need the movement speed.
Yeah, exactly. Especially too if you have the infinite weapons anyways, it kind of negates the necessity of having that extra movement speed and stuff like that, because you could easily
Yeah,
just wipe
exactly.
the
Because
floor
you
with
just
them.
exactly you're just dead and they're killing everything anyways.
Yeah.
Um, let's uh let's move on. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So the next thing that we're going to talk about be what are some good strategies and tips to follow when playing Resident Evil 8. And the first one that we thought was a very good point is explore every area, as they all have, they have all hidden treasures everywhere on walls and the trees and chests that we've been talking about. Like with, for example, I don't know if you remember with Luisa's house. If you go back to her house after it burns down, it has the necklace with the gem and then the key, and it goes
Oh
back.
yeah.
So
Yeah,
I thought
yeah,
that was really cool.
definitely. Yeah, the way they like the very few treasures that they do have in the game, they definitely have placed them in great places, and getting them is always sometimes a treat because, like you said, after you go back to the house, after a little bit of story progression, and you find her box, which
Mhm.
has a necklace, and you inspect the necklace, and the necklace has a gem in it, and then you inspect the necklace again, and then it has a key in it, and then the necklace appears, and the key takes you to something a little bit more valuable. Now,
Yeah.
assuming you never inspected the necklace, you just sold it, you end up losing on that valuable treasure that
Yeah.
you've missed, that you passed up earlier. Now, another nice little thing is if you're looking through one of the windows to one of the safes, you can see the combination to the safe if you're looking through the window because the numbers are all lined up right there in different spots. But you have to be looking through the window to see all the numbers. Again, it's just something that they added a little extra layer that they've always
Mhm.
added in Resident Evil games to unlock the extra treasures that are throughout. That they like to hide or not hide because most of them are in plain sight. So it's the passwords that they like to hide and stuff like that.
Yeah. And especially too with, so especially if you're wanting to like really grind and have a lot more efficiency on the harder difficulties, you definitely want to try to find all of that stuff. Like once you get through the game, you start to get used to the area. It's pretty easy to just run right through, collect all the treasures and everything, no problem. But you definitely want to explore as much as you can to collect all those treasures, because it can very quickly get more difficult if you're still trying to get used to the mechanics of the game, to be able to catch up against the enemies, especially once you're going into the harder difficulties. You obviously want to be able to have your weapons already infinite. And if it takes longer to make them infinite because you didn't collect enough money or treasures during the first playthrough, then it really jams you up in your progression.
Yeah, definitely. Like I said, the game is very lenient though when it comes to like the challenges that, in a sense, that you can probably unlock something infinite after your first playthrough.
Oh
Like
yeah.
that, like yeah. So like it's usually not something to worry about, but it's definitely something to think about as you're playing. If you were watching this before your first playthrough, um, definitely think about what weapon you want to be infinite, and then just max that one out and stuff like that.
Yeah.
As far as the Duke goes, him himself, I do believe you should always purchase all of the recipes as soon as he has them, because I think they could have been a little bit more lenient with the crafting materials in the game. I think they gave you a little bit less than was necessary, but I mean, if I ever actually needed ammo, I would go to the Duke, and Duke actually replenishes his ammo throughout the game.
Mhm.
So I highly suggest you always just purchase all of the Duke's ammos, because the next time you come back to him, he's gonna have more than likely. I do not know if it stacks. So I don't know if you like play the first area, then you don't get ammo from him when you see him, and then you play a couple more areas. I don't know if that ammo stacks. I don't believe it does. I think he's on like a fixed increment of refreshing his ammo, so
Mhm.
there's kind of always ammo for the next part, so to say.
Doesn't the price increase though? Or is that just with like the
Um,
first aids and
just
the pipe bombs and stuff?
just after you beat the game the first time. That's the only time his
Okay.
price increases. I didn't notice any price increases except for maybe throughout the game. I think the medis increased
Yeah.
to a
Yeah,
cap
those.
of 3,000. I think they capped out at 3,000, and then after you beat the game, they go up to 30,000, which is ridiculous. Craft your medis.
Yeah. Yeah. So, and actually, I found out about that too, because on when I did the playthrough knives only, and I just used the what's that called, the easy or the LZ laser. I forget what.
Mhm.
Yeah, basically a fucking
The lightsaber,
lightsaber.
the
Yeah.
lightsaber, yeah, the
Yeah,
lightsaber.
that I use that. I just stacked up on med kits because I can't really do much of anything else. And yeah, it goes from like 500, 1,000, then 15 to then 3,000. And then I found out too, it so I was thinking that too, it jumps from just 3 to 30, but it actually does jump up in increments. It just like really doubles then, because it goes from like 3,000 to 5, then 10, then 15, then 20, then 30, and it just keeps on going up from there. So I was like, damn.
See,
So that's why
yeah,
I
no,
especially explored everywhere to get as much crafting material so I didn't have to worry about spending too much on stuff. And
yeah,
then I
definitely craft your medis, buy your ammo. Um, you know, oh, good um thing to know also, if you're trying to get more than one weapon infinite. Josh figured this one out. Um, Sell your weapons that you don't use
Mhm,
or don't need, and you get a lot of money for them. um, your attachments and your upgrades, though, stay on them. You have to
mhm,
buy them back for an increased price later, but it will allow you to upgrade weapons, a little bit faster and stuff like that. So that way you can, get infinite if you wanted to, because after you unlock the ability to purchase it infinitely, that's
mhm.
it. That's like you could just sell it and go on to the next one.
Exactly. And what I thought was really cool, the trick that I found out is
if you create like two, for example, you create two different playthroughs, and in one playthrough you want that what was it, like a V61 pistol that turned into like a little Tommy gun? Was that what
Yeah,
the V61? The V61, say if you want to like max that out on the second playthrough, have two different playthroughs saved, and on the first one, sell all your other guns and just primarily upgrade the V61 to the max, and then go ahead and save it, and then just go ahead and go to the challenge shop and it'll open up the infinite. And then on the second playthrough where you still have all your guns and your normal playthrough, it'll still make the V61 infinite without it being upgraded to the max. So I thought that was a
yeah.
pretty nifty
So
trick.
yeah, so definitely when you beat the game the first time, create two save files or multiple
Mhm.
save files, but keep a master save file for right before you beat the game and upgrade your weapons from that master save file, so that way you can unlock the infinite.
Yeah, it'll make
Yeah.
things a hell of a
Pro
lot
tip.
faster. And then if you
Pro
do your
tip.
best to complete as many challenges as possible in the first playthrough, it's really going to save you a lot of trouble moving forward with trying to like just trying to conserve time with how many playthroughs you got to go through and everything.
Yeah, and if you're ever, lacking on money, your second or third playthrough, and you're in a pinch, start collecting ammo from the infinite guns that you have, because you
Mhm.
can always sell that ammo because you're not using it.
Yeah, that's what I especially like, because I know the shotgun and the sniper rifle ammo is a good price that you could sell. So that's what I kept on doing, and it was able to help me upgrade the stuff a lot pretty quickly. Although I did kind of
Yeah,
buy, because I would also buy, I bought all the figurines, all the concept art, and all that other stuff. So it was taking longer for me to be able to get some of the extra infinite guns, and then I made some bad uh purchases with with the CP points as well.
yes, the learning process.
Mhm.
um, but yeah, let's talk about since you did do all of the challenges and you do know a little bit more of you know, trophy hunting than I do. You're a little bit more hardcore into that.
Yeah.
Let's talk about some strategies you can kind of like use to maximize challenges per playthrough.
Yeah, it's this game, especially if you do it right, you can get several of the really difficult ones in a single playthrough. Because I managed to get the platinum just, was it just yesterday? Yeah, no, yeah, I got it.
I think
I
you
got
sent
the
me the
platinum.
picture yesterday.
Yeah, I got the platinum just yesterday, which was the last one that I had to get was all 20 of the goats. So I was finally able to finish that. But what I figured out though is that you could, if you do it right, and this is especially important for you to do as many challenges as possible and collect as much of the treasures and everything in the first playthrough, is in the second playthrough you could very easily get the slop trophy, the dense dad, don't trust that snake oil, and dashing dad. Because slop, for example, that's the one, if I remember correctly, you can you don't move or stack anything in your inventory. Dense dad is you don't craft any items. Don't trust that snake oil is you can only use 4 or less meds, and then dashing dad is complete the game in less than 3 hours. And what the strategy that I kind of started out as, although I picked a weaker shotgun than I should have. During the first playthrough, definitely focus on maxing out one of the shotguns. I'd probably recommend the either the second or third one you get, because it has better ammo capacity, reload times, as well as fire rates. But you'll want to have it maxed out, so in the second playthrough it could be infinite, and it'll be good for crowd control when you get a lot of the Lycans at the beginning, for example, crowding you, and then in the dungeons with the Castle Dimitrescu, especially too if you're trying to get the trophy and the challenge for beating that really big giant hammer dude at the very beginning. Having infinite shotgun will help that a lot quicker. Then another good thing with it is to instead of focusing, I would say focusing on upgrading any of the handguns starting out, just go ahead and get Chris's USM AI handgun, because it's already going to be maxed upgraded, and the power on it already does almost as much damage as the V61 when maxed out, and the V61 does quite a bit of damage.
And so
Oh
you
yeah,
could,
the V61 is crazy. It's like an assault
yeah.
rifle, dude.
Yeah, I think it's pretty crazy, but I think that will be like a second handgun to max out, like as you go through the second or probably through the third playthrough. But you get that handgun and you could immediately make it infinite because if you collect enough or complete enough challenges, you'll be able to afford to do so. Um,
Hmm.
make the grenade launcher infinite as well, because if you don't want to have to craft or move anything, worry about collecting stuff and it filling up your inventory and forcing you to move stuff, if you have the grenade launcher infinite, it'll allow you to be able to clear through a lot of the areas that requires like pipe bombs and mines and stuff like that. Because if you I came across a situation on my playthrough when I was trying to get that where it was at the Moreau at the in the water area, and his
Hmm.
like green gunk stuff had filled up and blocked off the area of that ship that you pulled up from the water. And I ended up having to craft there. So the next playthrough, I just made the grenade launcher infinite, and it completely negated any reason at all to be able to any reason at all to craft anything. But and then, as I said, it's important that you complete as many challenges as early as possible in the first playthrough, so that way you can make sure you get the 3 infinite weapons, because that'll save you a lot of effort. But just in case if you don't have enough, I would definitely say get the USM AI handgun and the grenade launcher, because that's going to be a really good fallback. And the handgun with like medium to long range, you can still maintain good crowd control.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. Good to know.
Yeah.
Good to know. I'm going to end up using that strategy because I don't have any explosives. I don't have a grenade launcher. Infinite, and I should have done it. But I wanted the
Yeah.
V61.
Yeah. The grenade launcher, I know it costs like 50,000 CP to be able to make infinite, and then you don't have to upgrade it, so that saves you a lot of effort. And then like with the second playthrough, to be able to get all those trophies in the single playthrough, you start on casualty, and then at the same time try to farm as much as possible. Hopefully if you memorize enough the area in the first playthrough, you'll be able to just kind of burn through everything, collect all the treasures. And then as you go through the second playthrough, I would recommend don't get the dragoon at all. In all honesty, it's not that great. It'll be great on the lower difficulties, but on the harder
That hurt.
difficulties, it sucks. It sucks so much. That's why you definitely want to focus on the WCX on this throughout the entire second playthrough. Focus on making that infinite, because it gets expensive, like to where it's 100,000 per just an upgrade slot. But you
Oh
upgrade,
man.
yeah, it gets pretty expensive. But the max ammo clip is 80 rounds versus the Dragoon, who has 30 rounds. And then the WCX, it is also stronger. And a lot of times, too, I had to rely on the WCX more than the Magnum, because the Magnum, like, it did damage, but the fire rate, I couldn't keep up because the Lycans and the flying things, they dash back and forth. Magnum couldn't keep up with this. So with the WCX, I just spammed R2 and just let it rip, and it just mowed through everyone, even on the hardest difficulty.
Okay. Okay. Good to know. Good to know. Yeah. No, I would made the mistake and I got the dragoon then.
That's what I did too. I did it too, but then I actually did it on the harder difficulty, and I was like, man, this is not good at all. Because when I played as Chris on the Village of Shadows difficulty, I can't tell you how many fucking times I died because of the fact that I had to reload. It sucked. It sucked so bad.
Yeah,
And then the
that
pistol can
that
only
that
do
Chris
so much.
section is pretty intense. I remember
Yeah.
the first time I went through that Chris section. It was pretty good. It's
Yeah.
definitely a high point in the game.
Yeah, I liked it because it was like the village started out like so quiet, ominous, and then when you play as Chris, like shit hit the fan. It's like a complete war zone.
Mhm.
It
Mhm.
was pretty badass. The knives out thing was definitely difficult with Chris, because you can't use the LZ answerer on any of the enemies. You can't even use it on that giant hammer dude just before the Megalo Messiah. You can't use the LZ answerer. You have to just knife him the entire time, and you just have the Krampus blade.
Ah, yes, the knives out challenge, the one where you have to go through the entire game using only knives. Now, what makes this easy is doing mercenaries. Okay, Josh
Hmm.
knows all about this. I hate mercenaries. I've never liked mercenaries from Resident Evil.
Yeah.
I always thought the time attack thing was kind of whack, but you have to play it to get the challenges and get the trophies.
Mm-hmm.
Mercenaries is the only way to get the lightsaber in the game, which acts as a melee weapon. Now,
Mm-hmm.
I'll let you go ahead and take it over from here because, again, like I said, I know nothing about the lightsaber and I know nothing about mercenaries.
Yeah, no worries. So I'm kind of split on if the lightsaber is actually worth getting for the Knives Out thing, just because Mercenaries is fucking difficult, dude. It is difficult, and there's not really any actual strategies that you could do or follow for the Mercenaries because it's pretty straightforward with you have a specific train of enemies that you have to go through. It's just you have to keep on following where they're spawning and it gets to the end point. And then it'll kind of backtrack at times. There'll be like little birds or pigs that you have to come across and shoot to keep and to finish the combo entirely. But basically, if you want the lightsaber, you're gonna have to pretty much perfect combo every single level and every single stage. Not even kidding, because you have to get double S rank on all of this on all stages in order to get that lightsaber, and it sucked.
Yeah, I don't. Again, it's so monotonous, and I couldn't go over and over again to try and get an S. It's difficult. Like I said, I
Mm-hmm.
don't like being I don't like the time attack. Like if it was like a horde style without the time where you just have to survive, like I think it would be a little bit like zombies,
Yeah,
like zombies from Call of Duty. Like if it was a
yeah,
little
I
bit
would
more
have
like
liked
that,
that.
yeah. But just the time attack is what kills it for me.
Yeah, and it makes it so much harder because you could follow YouTube strategy guides for mercenaries and the track that they follow because the enemies will always be in the same train route throughout the entire thing. So that way you could get the perfect combos and you could pause the game or like be in mid trying to pick a perk that you find up that will go ahead and pause it and so the combo won't cancel out. Then you could go ahead and use that to like bounce back and forth between a YouTube video guide of somebody else like running train through so you could keep following it. But that tends to eat up a lot of time. Like it'll turn like a 20 to 30 minute session of trying to beat the stage into like an hour and a half because the videos alone are like 14-15 minutes for like each stage. But again, yeah, it's so freaking difficult because you have to be so fast. You only have a certain amount of time before the combo ends before you have to just move on to the next guy. And then in the first four stages, you have shotgun, you have the sniper rifle, which is typically what you want to max out. And you don't want to focus too much on the pistol because it's the Lemmy, it's eh. But then once you get into the 5 through 8 stages where it's like Mad Village 2, Factory 2, and stuff like that. All you have is a fucking pistol, the Lemmy pistol, the weakest pistol in the entire game. And then you have the Magnum, but the Magnum is like 20,000. They have the grenade launcher, but that's 50,000. And there's only like two areas where you'll like genuinely need the grenade launcher, but you have to max the shit out of the pistol and then like off and on use the Magnum only for specific enemies that will either eat up too much ammo or more than likely just kill you way too easily. So I had such a hard time not raging during the mercenaries because it was just so difficult, especially the later ones. Because like with 5 through 8, having only the weakest pistol with only certain amount of money, and and obviously you don't want to spend too much money either because then that also diminishes your high score with trying to get the double S rank.
Yeah, exactly. But I mean, eh, how helpful would you say watching a video would be just to learn the spawn points, or and then that's all
Yeah,
you need, or that
I would say it's definitely best for learning the spawn points because just handling the situation within the level within each level, you just need to be able to be used to it and the fast pacedness. So it just takes repetition of getting used to the pattern, what weapons is like best works for you in the mercenaries, But yeah, the otherwise like the videos, it'll just help you understand what route you have to go in order to keep it going. And it'll show you too, like there'll be certain spots where you'll have a gap between a different enemy location. So you have to very quickly kill the enemies here and then run back to another area. So, and a lot of people like myself tend to miss those spots. So it helped me pick it up like, oh shit, I got to run really quick back to this location.
Got it. Got it.
Yeah.
Got it.
What I did find out though with I was so relieved about this because Factory 2, the Castle 2, and Mad Village 2 was making me was like I was irate with it because of how difficult they were only being able to use the pistol and then on rare occasions the Magnum and the grenade launcher. I absolutely hated it, but I had to get perfect combos on all of them. I had to like kill every single enemy in just a perfect route without skipping a beat and get it on each time. Thankfully, though, with Mad Village 2, you could get away with getting a triple S rank just off of the first two levels. Because if you get a perfect combo on the level 1 and level 2 of Mad Village 2, you'll easily come out with at least 850,000 and you only need 790,000 in order to get the double S rank. So 3 through 5, you could either just kill yourself immediately, which is what I did, and still get the double S rank, or you could keep going and just see how long you last.
I see. So okay, so there's definitely like some kind of strategy to mercenaries to like
I guess, yeah.
yeah, a little bit. I mean, again, it sounds like it's a lot of RNG for the most part. When it comes to like enemy placement and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, obviously fixed spawn points, but still, enemies could do it. Like we said, they literally like to dash left and right randomly. It's just
Yeah,
basically
exactly.
impossible to shoot them. Yeah. I think we're coming towards the end. Let's talk about what we think is gonna happen next. And I
Yes.
actually think we're going back to Chris. I think we're gonna play Chris again. I'm not 100%, but like it's just a gut feeling that I think we're gonna play Chris, mainly because we haven't had a female protagonist in a long time.
Yeah, like well, we had it in Resident Evil 6, but I mean, it was like a constant swap back and forth depending on who you played.
I'm sorry. Can you repeat that? I'm sorry. I just spaced out.
You're fine. Like they kind of had it in Resident Evil 6 because you could play as all the different characters, Ada, Elena, you could play as
Oh
Sherry,
yeah,
but it
yeah,
wasn't
yeah.
as main focus like with like Shiva, for example, in Resident Evil 5.
Yeah, no, Shiva was definitely on the forefront of Resident Evil 5, and it just felt like the other ones were like the side. Ada was the main of her own story, but it's, um, that's beside the point. Ada's always kind of been like her own kind of like girl who's always had her own side story.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, as far as the next character that we're playing as, I can't see it being Ethan Sauter. As cool as it would be, I just don't see them going that route of making her the main focus. It's definitely going to
Yeah.
be Chris. And in all honesty, it might not even be Chris. They might bring back an old female protagonist because it might actually be going in that direction where they need a
Mm.
female protagonist, and maybe like Rose is with this female protagonist or something like that. You know what I mean? Instead of Chris.
Yeah.
But there's just so many directions that it could go. But the feeling that I'm getting is just it's gonna be Chris.
I feel like it's going that way too, because as much as I think it would be cool to play as Rose, and I feel like it does go that route because I said the father story is now done. It would be cool to play as her because of her abilities, but I could see how the abilities would add complications to overall flow of the game mechanics, and like what extent things can be taken care of in it. But I do kind of feel like at the same time it'll go Chris's direction because the fact that now BSAA is involved. Not only that, but they're using BOWs, so that really adds an antagonist for Resident Evil 9. Maybe like who's behind the BSAA doing all this stuff now.
Yeah, exactly, because that was a pretty big shock at the end where, there was a BOW that was getting dropped into the village as opposed
Mm.
to like actual soldiers from the BSA, but they were wearing BSA gear and stuff like that, and it raises a lot of questions for them because they've always been kind of like the good guys, but who knows?
Yeah, and like if you look through the concept art too, it actually gives a little extra lore on it, and it was talking about like BSA became just as a corrupt place as Umbrella, and so they now just use BOW soldiers to handle this stuff. And I thought this was surprising, but in Resident Evil 7, Chris was part of Blue Umbrella, which I guess is
Blue Umbrella.
yeah,
Okay.
which is just like an off branch, but still a good thing. I don't know if that's still what Chris's organization is called because after 6, he formed his own organization. But I thought that was really interesting with BSAA, especially considering how heavily focused they were as the good guys in 5 and 6. I don't know if Leon wasn't for the BSAA. He was working exclusively under the president, right?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, yeah. So that was an special shock to me with that. I thought I so I think that I lost my train of thought on that. Oh yeah, but yeah, that's why I think the BSA is going to be like the main antagonist, or who knows, maybe it'll actually branch off into like something more in depth. Because I like the fact that gave more of the origin behind Umbrella with the whole umbrella symbol, and then finding out Oswald Spencer was at this village before with Mother Miranda when she was doing her experimentations in the early 1900s, and that's where he got the umbrella symbol from. So maybe it'd be interesting to see it give some more of that lore. I feel like that'd be very interesting.
Yeah, no, I'm all for it. Because like I said, it's something different. I want to see where the story's progressing.
Yeah.
Who knows? Maybe we'll eventually get to a post-apocalyptic Resident Evil game eventually, to where like everything's destroyed. But
Mm,
only time will tell. As far as seeing more of Rose, definitely think she's going to be a big point in the next game and her powers.
mm.
Whether she's controlling them or she's being controlled by someone or manipulated or whatever, I think that's going to be a big thing too, because
Yeah, because
obviously
of her
she's just
powers.
running around. Yeah, she's just running around, so it's very possible. But it's also very possible that she's strong and she can't. That doesn't happen to her, you know what I mean? And she just ends up saving the day towards the end of the next game. I do think we're probably going to see a couple old characters, maybe. Now that
That's what I was
like
thinking.
I said, we're probably going to go back to Chris. Um, I couldn't not have seen older characters. Um, but other than that, I mean,
Who do you think may
good
be some
game.
old characters?
Mm, um,
Like, do you think they go
Probably
old?
Claire.
Like,
We'll probably see Claire. No, we'll probably see Claire.
Claire?
I could see us seeing Claire.
Maybe Jill too,
Yeah,
since
I was
Jill was
thinking Jill
Chris's
too.
partner.
Since
I wonder if
exactly.
I wonder if they would like try at all to like bring Leon into it. Maybe even bring as far back as like Barry. I don't know if he's still alive within the Resident Evil universe, but like maybe have Barry finally get another spotlight in the newest one since he's only been in the first and all the like side games of Resident Evil.
Yeah, yeah. Like I said, like in all honesty, it could not be Chris. It could just be like, could just bring a new character. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
That'd be weird, but they could just do that.
Yeah. I wish we would have
I mean,
seen
they did.
Ethan's face, but because
I
I feel like
mean,
they
you
go
got
the same route.
don't you got the figurine for his face?
It doesn't show. Like, and
It
I was
doesn't
actually,
show.
yeah, it doesn't show his face. And I was looking at some game or YouTube videos today about the gameplay. And if you do like the 3D view of it in Resident Evil 8, he doesn't actually have a head.
Wow, interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
that's
yeah,
weird. But hey, that is what it is. They wanted him to remain super anonymous, apparently.
yeah. I like I can understand that part because like it adds more of that because a lot of people when they see like the final version of what the main character looks like it's either going to be either a good review or a bad review, and of course there'll always be some people that'll be like, well, no, that it's just he looks stupid as a main character. So I feel like they
Well,
kind of went that route with it. just to keep
Yeah,
that from happening, so you don't have to prejudge Ethan. You just go based off of his actions and what he goes through the games.
yeah, I definitely agree with that. I can see why they did it, but I mean, it's just so weird because they've given every single other Resident Evil character a face.
I know that part did drive me insane because I would still like to see what Ethan looks like. I think there's some, like in some gameplays of Resident Evil 7 where it does in fact show his face, but I'm not entirely sure.
uh, what would you what would you give your final rating for the game?
My final rating for overall in regards to the story and a lot of the features that they brought back, and then a lot of the times where it just left me with like my jaw dropped with like when Mother Miranda ripped his heart out, and then you really find out why he's so special. For that, I would definitely give it like a solid 9.5 for it, for my particular taste with it, with how the story was. I'd say a 9.5.
Okay. I'm right there. Like I said, there's a lot of like story wise, I'll probably give it like a 9, but like overall, probably gets like an 8 from me.
Yeah.
I'm a hard judge because, like I said, with the limited amount of enemies that there were and the two big wasted spaces for just bosses, it's just eh.
Yeah.
Seven was just a lot better.
Yeah. I could definitely agree with that side too. Okay. Well, I think we're pretty much wrapped up then. We should be all set. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you liked the episode, be sure to hit that thumbs up button. Also, subscribe and hit that notification bell to get updates on future videos. Show some love for Joe as well. He's been a great guest, and it's been awesome having him on. I'm sure you guys will be seeing more of him, and hopefully you enjoy our BS time, BS too. But again, hit that subscription, mush mouth. Hit that subscription button and notification bell. So that way, once I finally hit 100 subs, you guys will get notified of me doing the Ghost Pepper Challenge. Hopefully more. But anyways, that's the end of this episode, and I'll see you in the next one.